Lilith, the Zoom screen is all yours. Lilith is the author of A Dream of Therkous, right? That's coming out. Therkous, coming out in a couple months. So we're excited to hear all about it.
Yes, I am the author, Lilith Fox. This is my publication agent, assistant, helper in all things, Shadow.
I'm also her partner.
So, A Dream of Therkous is slated to be released in April of 2021 because I'm currently waiting on copyright to go through. But I guess I will start with why I wrote this book, and it is because when I was really young and through all of like high school and everything, the most enjoyment that I got was from reading books and escaping to worlds that weren't our own. And I really wanted to give other people that experience if I could. And I finally found something that I thought was worth writing, that I thought I could do a good enough job at. And I've been commended actually on how well I've done with it, that it is the kind of book that you can get lost in and really just like be burning to get to the next page and find out what happens next. Part of like the big thing that I wanted to do also with this book was help spread like the success around, I guess would be the best way to put it. So I'm like commissioning local artists and other artists that are in the community to try and like get their work in it as well, to spread their name out and to also like get us more, not acknowledgement, but to get our names out there a bit more. And I wanted to like spread that around a little bit. So I've commissioned local artists to help with the project. I guess I will start by going into the world because it is a fantasy book. So of course, I took it upon myself to design an entirely new world to set it in. The idea originally came about because since I was really little, I always liked the idea of changelings, which if you're not aware, the myth essentially is that they are beings that can take the form of anything that they have seen or have like tasted, like anything they have seen or come in contact with before. And the original mythos came from raising it. That's where the myth originally comes from. But I've always been really fascinated with the idea of shapeshifting and changelings since I was really little, and there's not a lot of books about them. So I really, really wanted to tell a story about changelings, which is what the book is about. The main character is of a changeling race. I took it upon myself to like flush the world out completely. Like I decided to invent my own calendar system with my own way of keeping time. Like the planet and moon structure is different in this world. I invented my own language for the actual race or species that I created of changelings, which took a lot of effort but was rewarding in the end because I felt that including a language that is foreign to the reader but is translated adds a bit of depth to the story because it makes you feel like you're learning things about other cultures. And I really like the idea of including that in the book. The second biggest thing that came about because like I came up with the idea for the book in only about 2 days. I wrote a 7-page document of the entire world setting in just 2 days of nonstop work. And in that time, I like designed the calendar system, the solar system. I also designed the planar structure because I'm a firm believer in that there's like a multi-planar structure to our universe, and I wanted to include that in my world. So basically, the structure is that in the very beginning, there was just one plane, a Nelkhouse, or the plane of ineffable fire. All that existed was heat and raw energy, until one day something came forth from the energy that no longer fit within the plane. A sentience formed of its own volition, just like how something just kind of sparked and started our universe. And once that being existed in a conscious form, it no longer fit the confines of a Nelkhouse. So it split off into a secondary plane, which I've called Therkous, which is what the first book in the series is named after. It is the ineffable plane of dreams and thoughts. Essentially, you can almost think about it like a campfire structure. So there's the 3 planes. You have Therkous, the higher plane, which is essentially a dark world that is lit up from a backlight that's full of smoke that you can impress your will upon and form any object or structure or beings that you want within the world because it is ineffable and it is the plane of dreams. So you can make anything you want there. The lower plane, real quick, going to screen share the cover art because it kind of shows about the design. It shows the Therkous. I don't know if it's Dream of Smoke coming up. Yes. Okay, cool. But basically, Therkous is a realm of smoke that you can shape into any form that you can imagine. It's where everyone goes when they dream at night, and everyone gets their own personalized version of it. So you never encounter anyone else when you are dreaming, but you have a whole canvas to paint on every night with your own will. So like following the campfire structure, the middle plane, Yumuk house, is the plane of physicality. It's where like your substance is of the fire. So it's the physical real world that you inhabit during the waking time of your day. And then you have the lowest plane, a Nelk house, which is just the plane of ineffable fire. So you have your fire, you have your substrate, and then you have your smoke. That's the planar structure that I designed for the world. And it comes up a lot because a lot of the book takes place in Therkous, the dream realm, because you're watching the main character as they are dreaming at night and things that they manifest with their will. After I designed all of that, I went on to then design the beasts that inhabit the world. And after I designed several like different creatures and all kinds of fantastical beasts, one of them really caught my fancy, and I decided to make that into the changeling race I was focusing the world on, which is how the Suzari came about, which are essentially shape-shifting beings that use blood as a form of magic. So once they have imbibed some of your blood, they not only know your memories, your thoughts, and your feelings, but they can take on your form and assume your place in society. It only takes a small amount of blood, and they can basically take over your life. And they do that by using an innate form of blood magic, which exists throughout the world, which is the race that I invented the language for. The book takes place on the continent of Sephiros, in the country of Vystir, in the city of Glorthol, or the capital city of the country. And the entire country is controlled by the Church of Hadriel, which is a overbearing church that secretly runs the government, as churches tend to. Basically everyone in the world is okay with the existence of the changelings except the church. The church, for some reason that you don't know as the reader, has it out for the changelings and demonizes them and wants nothing more than to wipe them from the earth. And because they are basically the governing body in the world, there's a lot of pushback that Suzari go through when they're living out their existences, because they can live for up to 500 years. So they have a very long time to try and survive or to fail at that. But you get to watch the main character battle with the forces of the church, with political rivals. You get to watch them struggle through trying to find companionship in a world that it's very hard to when you can't be honest about who you are. The main character themselves, I wanted to make them a changeling again because there aren't many stories that tell the story of a changeling and what they would go through hiding who you are in a world that doesn't quite accept you. And I really thought that was a story that I could connect with and be able to express well. The story is really a story of need. It is basically a battle between the main character's wants and desires, which is to not be alone, whether that's with friendship or with companionship. They just want someone to exist with that will accept them for who they are. And every time they try to, either something goes wrong and the person's taken from them, or the person doesn't accept them, and they just have like a sordid past of it's just not really working out in their favor, and they've lost hope that it'll ever come about. And you get to walk with them through a 2-week period in their life and see them continue this fight and all the problems they face as they try to surmount everything and still come out on top in the end. It's really a story of victim to victory, because the main character does go through a abusive situation in the book, which was difficult to write, but in a way almost therapeutic because I had been through abuse. And it was almost, it was like surmounting the words, I'm sorry, very nervous. It was very therapeutic to write because it was getting to see someone come out and fight out the other end of the situation that they're put in and come out better for it. And that was like a really heartwarming story for me to get to tell, and I'm really excited to bring that to the readers. Yeah, that's my sales pitch. I can read an excerpt real quick, or we can go to questions.
Up to you if you want to read a quick excerpt. If there's anyone with a question, feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll get to you. Oh, question.
How do you keep track of everything? Did you use a writing program?
Okay, so no, I did not use a writing program. What I do have is a 7-page document of the entire world setting put out in bullet points, a drawn out calendar system so I can constantly reference what day of the week, what month, and what season it is, because I came up with my own names for everything, because it is a 255-day year system with a 6-day week, a 3-week, a month, and a 14-month year. So I did have to redesign the entire calendar system for this world because it is a binary star system, which means there are 2 suns, which means that the planet would rotate faster because of the higher rate of gravity and the different sources of it. So it shortened the year and accelerated the passage of time, essentially, when you're making a calendar system for it. So I have a drawn-out calendar, a 7-page reference document for the world setting. I have a 15-page document of the entire language structure that I've created so far, as well as a 22-page document with every setting, building, location, description that I've ever put, every single character, their description, every interaction they've ever had, their biases on everything. It's a very organized system to make sure that I keep my continuity straight, because I am very much I want all the facts to be straight. I want no plot holes. So everything is documented, written out, and I could publish an entire book of just my reference information. Yes, it is so far planned to be a 3-book series for the main story, with a companion novel that tells the story of one of the secondary main characters of the book. So you get to also then see their journey through life. But so it will be a 4-book set with a 3-book main story series. The first book is slated for April 2021. I'm thinking January 1st for the 2nd book, because I'm already 80,000 words into book 2 at this point. And then book 3 will be sometime in 2022, and book 4 sometime 2023.
She does the same thing for Dungeons and Dragons with the campaign she built.
Oh yeah,
she has a very, very strong attention to detail.
Yes,
and a very strong passion.
Is there a word for love? Kuzo. Kuzo means love, my beloved, or my mate. I am not a changeling. I could teach a workshop on writing books. I could, but my process will not work for everyone, because not everyone wants to organize as much as I have. My brain hurts. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. What sort of focus did you put on representation in your characters that isn't as often seen in fantasy? My book is a fully inclusive LGBTQ world, meaning that there are cis, hetero couplings, there are gay, trans, there are intersex people in my world, and it's not approached as a big, weird thing. It is just a commonplace fact that is just who you are. So it is a very inclusive novel. It's also kink-friendly, because it portrays kink in a positive way. Yes, so that is how I have been inclusive in my book. Bravo on the attention to detail. Thank you. I didn't try to make it that complicated. It just happened, because that's how I do things. Yes.
Nan has a question as well. Nan, feel free to ask your question. You just got to go off mute, because I put you on mute earlier. There you go.
I'm just blown away by how imaginative this is. I'm fascinated. I just would like to hear a little bit more about the process of developing the language.
So essentially, first I had to design the structure of how they would conjunct sentences, because the biggest thing that you'll notice, because I do know partial German and I listen to a lot of anime which is Japanese, and you'll notice how sentence structuring is different in almost every single language, depending on the root origin of it. Now, I didn't have to go too far, because canonically, the book is written in an alien language, but it's in English so that the reader can comprehend it. The only reason the Suzari language is different than the language the rest of the book is written in is because it is a foreign language to the common tongue that people around the world would be reading in. To build the actual language, I started by designing a sentence structure. That was how they basically conjuncted sentences. I then had to design basically the rules of the language, meaning how it evolved. So since it started with a series of clicks, because they did start off as an animalistic race, it was mostly K's, C's, I's, and etc., and just long strings of different vowels between clicking sounds, and then how the language evolved from there. So more simplistic words that would have evolved earlier were more basically clicks and vowels, whereas more complex theories and ideas that would be expressed that would have evolved later in the language were more free form and I would say floral in their language and their structure. So you actually can see just by looking at the language, the more simple and originating words are a different version of the language than the later words that would have evolved, because how the language would have evolved over time. It took a lot of time, but it was way worth it.
I included a link to a portion of her website that I built that has excerpts from her actual writing, if you'd like to preview any of the writing itself and any of the language she has built around it. It is still waiting on the copyright so that it can actually be put to print. And once it's to print, it's ready to go.
And it'll be available everywhere.
Wow, congratulations, Lilith. I think we're all just very impressed right now and stunned by the world that you've created. So I'm very excited to see this book and I want to read it. So congratulations. We'll stay tuned for when it's out. Thank you, Shadow, for also helping out today. That was great.